Steve-O here. Ask me anything. Hey everyone, this is Steve-O. Here's a photo for proof. Link if you don't know about me. I was on an MTV show called Jackass over 20 years ago and, somehow, it was still a thing 20 years later. I identify as an all-around entertainer. I love animals. Hence, my Reddit handle is StreetDogLover. And have plans to open an animal sanctuary with my fiancé on a property we just bought in Tennessee. I recently finished touring the world with a truly insane multimedia comedy show called Steve-O's Bucket List, and I'm thrilled to let you all know that the show is streaming now for a limited time at steveo.com. I think that covers it. Now, let's fucking go. Yeah dude. Thanks, everyone. After more than 5 hours, I'm calling it a day. Please upvote and share this AMA on other subs and or any other way that works. Also, please do enjoy my new bucket list special. Until next time. Woohoo! What's the hardest part of staying sober for you? Amazing watching you thrive. I'd say that the hardest thing is when I smell weed. That's because I love the smell and, frankly, I love weed. When I'm breathing it in, the drug is technically entering my body, and that is upsetting. Steve-O. Do you ever think about what a strange place you occupy in our culture? Speaking in broad generalizations, vegans who help animals and people who launch bottle rockets out of their butts don't tend to be the same people. It's like you don't give a fuck while also caring a whole lot. I probably learned more about animals from a guy who drank Preston Lacey's sweat than any teacher, and that's just so surreal to me. You're like Captain Planet, covered in shit from a porta-potty, off to save the world. I know it might sound dumb, but it had an impact on my teenage mind. Before you came along, it seemed like you couldn't make the world better without being a buzzkill. I think you showed a lot of people that isn't true. In fact, you can totally fucking rock and be a helper. Sincerely, thank you and fuck yeah, dude, you rock. Thanks so much for this. How's Bam and do you think this time he'll be solid? He sure seems to be doing better than he has in years, and I'm thrilled about that. I've lost touch with him, though, so I keep up with him these days indirectly from what I see on the internet, just like everyone else. I only want for him to be happy and healthy, and I'm rooting for him from afar. What's something you've turned down that would surprise your fans? I turned down $100,000 for promoting a product I don't believe in. Hey dude, I saw you attending a comedy show in New York recently. I won't say where or when specifically to maintain some privacy. And it made me think, how do you feel about fan interactions in public places? I may have done a double take given I was surprised to see you, but felt like the right thing to do was to not impose by approaching you. You're a very recognizable guy, so I'm sure it happens to you often. It would have been fine to approach me. I'm generally really good about it. The only problem is that too many interactions can wear me out at a certain point, and then it becomes difficult to be joyful about it. Sadly, I almost invariably become short, grumpy when that happens. That doesn't mean anyone shouldn't approach me, though. Thanks. What is your most old man, healthy habit at this point in your life? I've maintained an average of more than 40 minutes of meditation every single day since Dec 27, 2019. Creeping up on 4 years. How are your animal sanctuary plans going? We bought the property, and have our first farm animal on it, a pig named Lulu. We're headed out there on Weds to start setting things up, but that will be a long, gradual process. I am an addict and alcoholic. What's the best advice you can give me? I'm not a social person. I love you, bro. I think the best advice is to expand your comfort zone by spending time with sober alcoholics. I say that because it's pretty clear that alcoholics can't recover alone. Steve-O, I just wanted to say my favorite thing you ever did was Wild Boys with Chris Pontius. I miss the shit out of seeing the two of you having the time of your life together. Your friendship is so pure. Do you miss hanging with Pontius? I still have a great relationship with Chris. Whenever we get together, we both appreciate it immensely. What happened to your leg? I had surgery on my left knee for a partially torn meniscus. Only partially torn? Dude, you've changed. If you were in a literal food fight to the death, what food would you choose as your weapon? My first guess is snow crabs. You've been famously sober for 14–16 years now after having struggled with severe addiction. Some people say you never stop being an addict. Do you agree? Do you still feel like you struggle with addiction today? What advice do you have for people struggling with the choice to stay sober today? How do you turn 1 week sober into 1 year, into 14–16 years? And on a lighter note, what's your favorite holiday movie? I'm actually coming up on 16 years. My sobriety date is March 10, 2008. Not only do I agree that you never stop being an addict, alcoholic. I genuinely relate to the saying, I never suffered from alcoholism until I got sober. The good news is that any other disease leaves you no hope but to return to as healthy as you were before you got sick. But for us, when we treat our disease, we become better versions of ourselves than we ever were before. That's a big-ass deal. My advice would be to stop framing it as a choice to stay sober, and start framing it as a choice to stop blowing it. I don't think I have a favorite holiday movie, unless you want to count Steve O's bucket list at steveo.com. Woohoo! In all seriousness, though, I wish that the best in recovery. I feel strongly that it could not be more worth it to follow the path. Thanks for doing an AMA. What's the greatest praise you've ever received for your work? When I meet people and they say, thanks for all the laughs, I always say, thanks for laughing. I don't want to undermine wonderful things that have been said, but I consider laughter to be the gold standard for praise. Just wanted to say that you were a huge inspiration for me getting, and staying, sober. I figured if this maniac can do it and still be cool as fuck, I can too, so thanks for that, fucker. My question is, what old grainy stunt do you wish had been captured in modern super slow-mo 4K? Ooh, what a fun question. My first thought is to wish that the worst slam I ever took had been captured on video at all. The faceplant on concrete off the second-floor balcony in 1995. Where I broke my cheekbone, 7 teeth, my wrist, and had 10 stitches in my chin. Candidly, it may be better that nobody ever had to see footage of that, but I can't help wishing it existed. Really great question, thank you. How's life, Steve O? I have a group of men who I meet with regularly, so that we can all talk about our feelings, really, and at our last meeting, I told them that I feel I would be hard-pressed to think of ways my life could be much better, but I have an incredible ability to constantly be full of anxiety and stress, and that I can imagine my life ending with me thinking, why couldn't I have just relaxed a little bit and enjoyed myself? I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I've come to accept that my constant state of anxiety, stress, and fear is useful for me. Because it keeps me working hard and remaining productive. So my answer is, life is uncomfortable, but that's okay. Thanks for asking. You guest starred on the first show I ever pod on and you were super cool and kind to me and the crew. How do you do it all and be an excellent person? It really means a lot to me to see comments like this, thank you. What is a life lesson you learned pretty late in your life? Floss your teeth. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? My dad raised me with the motto of always under-promise, and over-deliver. I don't think there's a lot of advice that can beat those words. Hey Steve O. My husband and I have rewatched a lot of The Wild Boys recently, and you went to a lot of really cool places. What was your favorite location you got to travel to during your career? And what was your favorite animal you got to interact with? I view the Wild Boys experience as having been a numbers game. We wanted to go everywhere, so the favorite place was always the next place. I think I can honestly say that, even back then, my favorite thing was always to come home. All of that travel always made me feel grateful for living in the USA. Lastly, my favorite animal is Wendy from Peru. I know she didn't have anything to do with Wild Boys, but no experience I ever had with Wild Boys comes close to the way I feel about Wendy. Would you do it all again? The Back to the Future movies taught me to be careful about altering the space-time continuum. So I feel pretty strongly that I would have to, because I'm pretty happy with who I've become and where I'm at in my life. Hey Steve O. Quick question from a 29-year-old female here. What advice do you give to someone who feels so far behind on life, compared to everyone else? All of my friends and peers my age are getting married, having kids, and are setting up their lives. I'm afraid to wake up someday and be the 50-year-old single woman whose whole life is consumed around her job. Any advice about life would be amazing. Thank you. I don't want to throw any shade on your friends. But If, when they start getting divorced, having crises with their kids, and/or trying to pick up the pieces of the lives they set up which went on to all apart, then I imagine you'll be feeling pretty good about your decisions. I say all of that because comparing ourselves to others can be very counterproductive. What I'm sensitive to is the idea of life being consumed by one's job. If you're not passionate about your work, that could be a problem. Perhaps the answer is to find your passion, as that will enrich your life, and might bring out the qualities in you which will attract a healthy long-term relationship, life partner. Nice to see you doing well. Will your animal sanctuary sell postcards? I'd love one from you. Peace. That sounds like a great idea. Thank you. If you had to change the O to a different letter, what would it be? Perhaps the classic Steve N? What's your favorite song? That's kind of like asking what's your favorite food. And the answer will change with moods. For this moment, though, I'm going to say Throwing Stones by the Grateful Dead. Tell the truth. I bought a smart car to crash it into a wall, so I could make sure the airbags worked. They definitely worked, but the seat was scooted all the way back, so the airbag didn't get a chance to break my nose. I don't know that I'm going to love trying it again, but that's going to need to be redone. I'm not here to dodge tough questions, so let me address. I'm not a doctor, and Lux and I have fun when I take Blue Chew tablets. I've also never promoted Blue Chew without being very clear that you can't get them without consulting a medical professional. I hope that helps. I do love animals and, while I was a hardcore vegan for many years, I've reintroduced seafood into my diet. Because I think it's good for me. It's as simple as this: I eat seafood. Not to mention, that goldfish does not have a complex nervous system. I respect your concerns, though, and acknowledge they are valid. I remain okay with my actions, though. Thanks. She doesn't give kisses. When we were kids, my sister did everything right, got straight A's, and was never in trouble. I did the exact opposite of all that, and all of these decades later, I've somehow emerged with all of this good fortune. It feels like imposter syndrome to believe that I don't deserve to have such a good life, when I wasn't a good kid. I tried to work on using my voice correctly, and I just couldn't stick with it. Candidly, it was mostly just for that video that I even tried it in the first place. There have been many really great podcasts I got to be on. I want to name a particularly awesome example of one here, too. I think I'm going to go with my very first appearance on Mike Tyson's Hotboxin'. I don't listen to interviews after they are recorded, but I can say that I genuinely regret the way I handle the subject of video games in that podcast. I made no sense, and came off as a real douche. It was not a good look. I really like Danny Brown, though. I never shy away from the topic of recovery when it comes up organically, but I avoid going into situations in which the primary purpose is to speaking about recovery in the media. I don't know if Tremaine and Knoxville are best friends, but the respect they have for each other is as genuine as it gets, and their professional relationship speaks for itself. I don't know what's up with the uniforms, but they work for the captain. Thank you for the kind words. Let me preface this response by emphasizing that I am not a doctor. With that said, it breaks my heart to learn of someone so young dealing with this. I'm particularly sensitive to it, because I've struggled with suicidal depression at times, myself. Again, I'm not a doctor, but I was referred to a psychiatrist who prescribes me an SSRI drug called Zoloft, and it has helped me a ton. Please consider seeing a psychiatrist yourself. Lastly, my advice for anyone who wants to do anything is always to start doing it. Be careful to welcome guidance from people who can help you make sure that you don't start out learning bad habits. But also, don't wait. Start doing it. I wish you the best, seriously, please take care of yourself. And thanks again. There were clowns who had been unkind towards me because I wasn't chosen to be in the circus. After I got a pretty awesome job as a clown on a cruise ship, I learned that some of those unkind individuals were trying to get my job, and that was very satisfying for me, albeit in a petty, vengeful way.